Hey everyone, so today you're going to be following me along while I turn this photo into this photo. So I've got this photo right here of this pond that I took that I'm actually really proud of. There's so much detail in the ice and the structure in the pond from this deep freeze that we got. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this in landscape. I'm going to rotate just slightly to kind of make the pond look more level. This is a straight down photo, so there is no levelness, but we're giving it the appearance of balance here, and that looks a little bit better. And I'm going to crop in a little bit more than that, something like that. That looks better. Then I'm going to come up here. I'm going to drop our contrast down, and then what I'm going to do to increase the contrast in the image is use these sliders here. So we're going to bring our blacks down, bring our whites up. We'll bring the exposure down a little bit more than that. And we'll use our white slider to bring these bright points way up. And what I'm noticing down here is the snow's starting to get a little overexposed. I'm going to press and hold Alt, click, and drag this down. That's going to show me these areas that are clipping. And as we can see here, there's definitely a lot of clipping in the snow there. So let's bring our whites back down. That's not enough, so probably something to this effect. That might just bring, yeah, something like that. Now, I'm not going to use a lot of clarity in the overall image, so I'm going to drop the clarity down just a smidgen. And let's make the image overall just a little bit cooler. Look over here to the tone curve. I'm going to use this tool to really drive in some of the contrast here. And what I'm doing to add these points without messing with the tone curve is I'm pressing Alt and clicking, and that's dropping a point without moving the actual tone curve itself. So we're going to bring these darks down. Yeah. And if you accidentally add another point, you can just hit Control Z and it'll take that away. That's looking a lot more contrasty. Really bringing out the detail in the water there. And that's what I want to do, is I want to bring out as much detail in that ice as I can, because that's a really interesting feature. So I'm going to add another point. Continue trying to bring those highlights up without overdoing it. That looks pretty nice. And now I'm going to drag the darks down just a little bit more. That's not bad. That's a good start. I'm going to come over here to our RGB red, and we're going to drag down a little bit of teal or turquoise. And then we'll take the reds and the highlights and bring that up a little bit, because I want the blues to be evenly distributed over the image itself. Now I'm going to come over here to the hue. I want to take our blues and see how it looks in turquoise or more of a teal. I'm not really a fan of that for this image. I'm going for a darker blue, so we'll stick with that. I'm going here to luminance. And again, a lot of this is just kind of playing around, seeing how it works towards your end goal in mind. So we got that. Now onto the color grading. And I love using this color grading tab here. So right into the shadows, I want to introduce some deep dark blues. I want to take the luminance of those blues down quite a bit. I'm going to go with some, nope, I'm going to go with kind of a teal, a bright teal for our highlights. And into our midtones. This is where I can really dump a lot of the blue that I want in here. And now let's drag the luminance of that way down. And at this point already, let's look at the difference between the original and where we're at. We've came a long ways already, and I'm not done yet. Let's close that. Come down here to calibration. Now this is where I'm going to really push in some more of those deeper, darker, almost purpley blues. I'm just going to keep messing with these blues to get them where I want them. I want to introduce a little bit of green into the shadows. And all we're really doing here is we're mixing different colors to get the individual exact shade of blues that we want. Now, I'm noticing that bringing the saturation of this green primary up is making the ice in the pond here pop a little bit more. And that's exactly what I want. And redo effects. I'm going to bring a vignette down to -15. I'm going to bring the midpoint in. And then I'm going to increase the feather about 69. All right. Now we're at a really nice point that I'm overall really happy with. And there's just one thing that we can do to really finish driving this in. And that's going to be to add a radial gradient to just this ice portion. So let's do that. Add a radial gradient. And I'm going to expand this area, the area that it's affecting. We're going to place that right here. And I'm going to use a brush to take away so that we're not messing with the snow itself right here. I don't want to do that. So let's leave these areas alone. Now let's go back up to the primary here. Now we already got the exposure up a little bit. And let's take the blacks down just a hair. We don't want to take the blacks down too much with local adjustments because then it looks really obvious. So I'm going to use our white slider. That's a little too much. Dial that back down. And we're going to dial our exposure back down a little bit too. Don't need too much exposure. Now I want to rack that contrast up. And bring the exposure back a little bit more. Bring our dehaze in back because that's making it a little too hyper realistic. Bring our clarity slider up and our texture down. That looks pretty nice. Now, what I want to do is I want to take this mask. I want to expand it out a little bit more to include more of the pond, get a little bit more of a graduation throughout the pond. And that looks really nice. Look at the difference between the before and the afters. Now, I could probably keep going with this and just messing with stuff and bringing out details, but this is actually just a really great stopping point. Yeah. So this was just kind of a simple follow along editing tutorial on making one of my great photos from this past winter. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm going to try and do a lot of these and start covering more of my particular editing style. And in any case, see you next time.